Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you my latest book haul. So this is going to encompass all the books I hauled between January, February, and March, and there's quite a few between Christmas, overflow, and my birthday, so let's dive in. So first up, we're gonna start with the ebooks, and I only have a few of those this time, and the first is A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. This is the first book in the Halfling saga, and it says, Kira is a killer. As the King's Blade, she is the most talented spy in the kingdom, and the King's favorite assassin. When a mysterious figure called the Shadow starts making moves against the crown, Kira is forced to hunt the masked menace down. She crosses into the magical lands of the Fae, trying to discern if her enemy is mortal, elf, or a halfling like her. But the Faeland is not what it seems, and neither is the Shadow. Kira is shocked by what she discovers, and can't help but wonder who her enemy truly is. The king that destroyed her people, the prince that tortures them, or the shadow that threatens her place at court. As she searches for answers, Kira is haunted by a promise she made long ago, a promise not only to save herself, but an entire kingdom. So this was one of the free books that Barnes & Noble had for members, and I don't know that I'm going to love it, but for free, I figured it would be worth giving a try. My reservations are, I'm not really into Fae. It's a fantasy, which is fine. It is marked on Goodreads as romance and YA, so a fantasy YA romance doesn't necessarily make me go, woohoo, yes, I'm gonna love that. But, again, for free, I figured I would give it a try. Next, I grabbed One Poison Pie by Lynn Calhoun, and this is the first book in the Kitchen Witch mystery series. It says, Mia Malone is starting over in Magic Springs, Idaho, where murder is on the menu. What's a kitchen witch to do when her almost fiancé leaves her suddenly single and unemployed? For Mia Malone, the answers move to her grandmother's quirky Idaho hometown where magic is an open secret and witches and warlocks are mostly welcome. With a new gourmet dinner delivery business and a touch of magic in her recipes, Mia's hopes are high. Even when her ex's little sister Christina arrives looking for a place to stay, Mia takes it in stride. But her first catering job takes a distasteful turn when her client's body is found stabbed and stuffed under the head table. Mia's shocked to learn that she's a suspect, and even more so when she realizes she's next on the killer's list. With Christina, along with Mia's meddling grandma in the mix, she'll have to find out which of the town's eccentric residents has an appetite for murder before this fresh start comes to a sticky end. So this one sounds right up my alley. A fantasy vibe, cozy mystery, small town, quirky, magic. It's got all of the makings of being a new favorite, so we shall see when I get to it, and I'm hoping that this is one that I can get to sooner rather than later. But with it being an ebook that's iffy, I tend to forget that I even own them. And then the last ebook I got is Heathen, Volume 1 by Natasha Alterishi. So this is a graphic novel series, and it follows a young Viking woman who, after being banished from her home, sets out on a mission to right the wrongs of a corrupt god. Her first move is to find and free the cursed Valkyrie Brynhild. Gods, demons, and creatures of lore, Heathen is packed with fun, intriguing characters and lavish artwork. So I'm very curious about this graphic novel, even though I absolutely hate reading digital versions of graphic novels, but this was another one that I believe was a Barnes & Noble, free with your membership thing, so I figured it'd be cool to have. If I get into it, I can always eventually buy a physical copy or get the books out of the library, so quite the eclectic mix from my ebooks this time around. That brings me to my audiobooks. First up, I got The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. This is the third and final book in the Lycanis trilogy. This is a fantasy series that follows multiple points of view. Obviously, we're wrapping up the trilogy in this one, and I bought the first two audiobooks, so I'm sure that the third one being in this haul does not surprise anybody. Then I got The Tower of Nero by Rick Riordan, and this is, I believe, part of his Trials of Apollo series, though I'm not sure which book, but I've been slowly collecting the Rick Riordan audiobooks because I absolutely love them, especially Apollo's, so very, very much looking forward to being able to listen to this when I get around to that book in my reread. Then I believe that was part of, so the Tower of Apollo was part of a buy one, get one, or a one credit, two books kind of thing, if I remember correctly, and I ended up getting the Blood of Dragons, which is book 4, I believe, in the Rainwild Chronicles of the Realm of the Elderling series by Robin Hobb. So I'm working my way through that series, so I figure at some point I will get to this one and I won't have to worry about trying to hunt down the audiobook. Then I got The Blade Itself, Before They Were Hanged, and The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie, which are all 3 books in the First Law trilogy. I've read the first 2. I've started the 3rd one. This is a fantasy series that follows a bunch of different points of view, and the first book is definitely very character-driven and not super plot-driven, and it is very, very hard to explain what it's about because there's not tons of plot. You're just kind of learning the characters. I know one's an assassin, one's like a swordsman, there's somebody who's in the army, there's somebody who's kind of like a mercenary almost, or like a bandit. There's magic in this series of some sort, and I've enjoyed the first 2 books, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up the trilogy with book 3 if I can ever force myself to get back to it and get out of my kind of adult fantasy slump. Then I got Never and Forever by Cressida Cowell, which is the 4th book in the Wizards of Once series. The audiobooks for these are absolutely fantastic, so I'm so happy to own book 4. And hopefully I will get to that eventually because I was really enjoying that series, and the audiobooks, like I said, are ace. So it seemed a no-brainer to grab that one. And then the last audiobook I got is Malamander by Thomas Taylor. And this is a book that follows, I think his name is Herbie, and he runs the Lost and Found, and he ends up finding a girl one day and having to figure out how she ended up getting lost. I've really, really enjoyed this series, and just the idea of next time I read it, and when I do a reread, being able to listen to the audiobook sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. So very happy to own that one. So now into my physical books, of which I have quite a few. First up, I have The Sword of Kaigan by Emma Wang, and this was gifted to me by Oz, right? Yes, Oz. And this is a adult fantasy, and I don't know much about it, but I've heard some really good things, and I believe there might be some elemental magic in this, because I believe that's why I ended up finding out about this, is because of the fact that there was elemental magic in it, and it was recommended for an elemental prompt, and I remember reading it, and it sounding good, thinking about picking it up, realizing that the only way I could do that was to either buy it or read the ebook, and look at this chunker. I did not want to read the ebook, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this at some point, and I'm very thankful to Oz for getting it for me. I also have 2 other gifts, and they are from Aaron. The first is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is one of my favorite books that I read this year. This is a cozy fantasy, and we're following an orc named Viv, who is kind of retiring from her profession of, I'm trying to remember exactly what she did, but there was like a lot of like brutality to her profession, and she just wants to open a coffee shop. That is her life's goal, and she ends up doing so, and the place where she does it has never really heard of coffee, so it's quite an interesting journey. There's some found family vibes here, and I just really, really loved this story. It has been described as high fantasy but low stakes, so cozy fantasy. Totally turned me on to the genre, and I'm so happy to own a copy of this for myself. The other gift Aaron got me was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So this is the first book in the, what is it, a King's Killer Chronicles or something like that. And I absolutely adore this book. I want to do a reread really, really badly, even though I don't know when or if book 3 will ever come out. But it follows Quoth, and we basically get to see his journey, and he's kind of telling his story, and it is such a fascinating read, and it sucked me in from the word go. And while these books are huge and contain so much material, I just loved diving into this world, and I can't wait to do a read, and I'm so happy that when I do reread it, I will get to read my own copy. So seriously, Aaron and Oz, thank you guys so much for the gifts. I really, really do appreciate them. Then I grabbed Flashback by Shannon Messenger. This was the only Keeper of the Lost Cities book that I didn't have a copy to. I think it's book 7. Yeah, book 7. So, I think it was like a buy one, get one 50% off sale for Barnes & Noble, so I snagged this because, again, it was the only one I didn't own. And this series follows Sophie, who ends up in the first book finding out that the reason she has the ability to read minds is because she's an elf, and she gets brought to the Lost Cities and realizes there's way more to the world than she knows, and we kind of follow her journey, and it is one of my favorite series ever. I love Sophie and Co., and I'm just so glad to finally own the entire series, even though some of them are hardcover and some of them are paperback. So at some point I will have to finish out both collections, I think, because I can't imagine getting rid of some of my beautiful hardcovers. but I also managed to snag through Book Outlet when I bought them some signed paperbacks, so I don't want to get rid of those either. So at some point I will probably have the series twice over, once in hardcover and once in paperback. Then I got the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions of Under the Whispering Door and The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and I don't know exactly what about them, like if there's extra material in here, but look at these sprayed edges. So obviously it matches the covers of the books, because you have like the sunset and then you get that vibe here and you have the trees. These are some of my favorite books. I absolutely adored reading both of these. They're both absolutely brilliant reads. I've heard this described as a warm chocolate chip cookie and middle grade for adults, and that absolutely jives. This one deals with grief and loss and death, and they were both just very, very brilliant in different ways, and I've reread both of them. I guarantee you I will reread both of them again in the future, and I'm just so excited to have these beautiful editions for my shelf. Then I got The Trials of Apollo, The Burning Maze, Book 3. This is just one of the Rick Riordans I don't own, so I'm slowly filling in my shelves there. Absolutely love this series, and am excited to be doing my reread. Then I got The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas. So this is a YA, and we're following Tio, who's a 17-year-old jade semidios and the trans son of the goddess of birds. And we're getting ready to do the Sunbearer Trials, and what happens is Saul selects 10 of the most worthy semidioses, and Theo isn't at all worried that he is going to be chosen because jade semidioses don't normally get chosen. He's far more worried about his best friend, who is a gold semidios. But he and another jade get chosen and have to compete in the trials, so his life gets a lot more interesting after that. I absolutely love this. It's a duology. I don't know when the next book comes out, but I definitely want it. I will be pre-ordering it. This book was just absolutely brilliant, and I really, really enjoyed it. I love both this and Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, and I cannot wait to see what happens to Tio in book 2. Then I got A Darkening of Dragons by S.A. Patrick. I have heard really good things about this book, and my library didn't have it, so when I saw that it was for sale on Barnes & Noble, I grabbed a copy because I've been wanting to read this series for a while. It says 3 XNL heroes encounter one legendary villain in an epic dragon-filled adventure, just right for young fans of Terry Pratchett, J.R.R. Tolkien, and How to Train Your Dragon. So I'm hoping that I absolutely adore this. Like I said, I've heard good things. I've been wanting to read it for a while, so I figured why not splurge and get myself a copy. And I mean, the cover seems really cool. I'm very curious to see what happens with dragons, and I mean, it's called Songs of Magic, so I'm wondering if there's going to be some kind of musical aspect as well, so we shall see. And yeah, very excited to get to this one. Then I got the first 3 books in the Wheel of Time series, so The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn. I'm taking part in Wheel of Time Along, and I saw these were on sale on Book Outlet, so I grabbed the first 3. And they're the good, like, let me see if I can pull one out here. Floppy, like, big paperbacks, which is another reason that I wanted to have them, because hardcovers are a pain in the butt, and mass market paperbacks suck. So I am very excited to own all 3 of these. I'm enjoying my read of it so far. I've read all of them, so I am looking forward to continuing on with this series and seeing where it goes. Though I believe, based on what I've heard, that it does get bogged down at some point, but I've enjoyed the first 3 so far, so we'll see how it goes. Then I grabbed The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street and The Vanderbeekers and the Hidden Garden. These are the first 2 books in the Vanderbeekers series, and this follows, well, the Vanderbeekers. And in the first one, their landlord is getting ready to evict them, and the kids take it upon themselves to change his mind. I've heard nothing but good things about this series, and I've been wanting to read it for a while, so I ended up grabbing the first 2 books and am excited to get to them. Then I got A Pinch of Magic and a Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. These are the first 2 books in, I believe it's just the Pinch of Magic series, and it follows the Wittershin sisters, and I've really, really enjoyed, I think I've read the first 3, maybe. I've definitely read these 2. In the first book, there is a curse that makes it so that Betty and her sisters cannot leave the island where they live, and all Betty has ever wanted to do is kind of have an adventure and travel, so these sisters end up setting out to break the curse. There's a lot of family vibes in this one. I love the relationship between the 3 sisters, and yeah, I just, at some point, I would like to do a reread, so I figured it would be cool to have my own copies. Next, I got The Mysterious Messenger by Gilbert Ford, and I think this is a middle grade mystery. It says a young psychic becomes embroiled in a sweeping mystery involving books and a secret treasure. So yeah, sounds like it's going to be a fun mystery with maybe like a fantastical twist, since this kid is going to be psychic. Ooh, it has illustrations. That could be fun. So yeah, at some point I hope to get to this one, and I think the cover is really cool. So I think that's what drew it to me in the first place. Don't know much more about that, but ooh, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there looks to be a little ghost in the corner. This could be a spooky mystery. I guess I will find out at some point. Then I got Claude, Evil Alien Warlord Cat Enemies. This is the second book in the Claude series, which follows, well, an evil alien warlord cat that gets banished to Earth. His name is Wizcuz, but his human Raj calls him Claude, and we get to see his misadventures on Earth. I've really, really enjoyed the series. I find it very, very humorous, and I now own the first two books, which is exciting. At some point, I hope to fill in the rest of the series. Then I got The Best Edit by Maulik Pancholi, and this is a middle grade contemporary that follows Raoul, who is trying to find something he is really, really good at. I could even say the best at. And he is really, really struggling it. And there are bullies who won't stop torturing him. And he has a crush on a male classmate and is trying to deal with that. And is worried that he's never going to find something that he is really, really good at. I read this, I don't think it was last year. I think it might have been 2021. And I loved it, and I wanted a copy for my shelves because at some point I could see myself rereading it and diving into it again. So, an amazing middle grade contemporary. I would highly recommend it. Then I grabbed The Sea and Winter and I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. These are both middle grade contemporaries. This one focuses on a figure skater who got injured and is dealing with anxiety. And this one is focusing on a young girl who is trying to find out more about her history. She's Native American, but her mom was adopted, so finding out about her history is difficult, and she stumbles across a box with some clues in it and has to kind of go from there. I loved both of these books immensely and absolutely can't wait to read more from Christine Day and wanted copies for my shelves. Then I grabbed Thief Knot and Blue Crown by Kate Milford. These are, I think, books 3 and 4 in the Green Glass House series. This is set before the first book, and I have no idea where this one fits in, but I've learned that there are several series within a world, which I didn't know when I read Green Glass House, but I'm slowly filling in the books. I think I just pre-ordered book 5, maybe. Really enjoyed the first 3. Definitely would like to do a reread at some point. Maybe before I read book 4. I don't know. But very interesting kind of mystery series, and yeah, really enjoyed what I've read and wanted copies for my shelves because, like I said, at some point I would like to reread the series. Then I got Map of Flames by Lisa McMahon. This is the first book in the Forgotten 5 series, and it follows 5 children, Birdie, Bricks, Seven, Tenor, and Cabot, who are the children of supernatural criminals, and they've kind of been left on their own, and they end up finding a map, and it leads to a secret stash and a note that says, go to Estero and find your mother, give her the map. So they've kind of lived in isolation, and now they've got to set out on their own to deliver this map. And yeah, I'm very curious about this one. It sounds like it has a lot of elements that I'm going to really enjoy. So quite looking forward to diving into this one at some point. Then I got some cozy mysteries. I got The Moonshine Shack Murder, Rescue Murder Gentleman, The Broken Spine, and A Death of No Importance. I don't know much about any of these other than that they're all, whoops, the first book in cozy mystery series, but I've been really getting into cozy mysteries this year, so I thought I'd try some new series. Speaking of cozy mysteries, I got Homicide in Halo Halo and Blackmail and Babinka by Mia P. Manasawa. These are the second and third books in the Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery series, and this follows a Filipino family, and there are definitely massive family vibes in these, but like I said, they're also cozy mysteries, so there's always some sort of dead body. And in the beginning of each book is an author's note with some trigger warnings, which I really like, because these, like I said, are a bit more hard-hitting. So I like that she lets you know going into it what kind of content you should be expecting in case it is something that could be triggering these issues that you find in Cozy Mysteries. I've really, really enjoyed the series and cannot wait to read book 4. Next, I've got Camp Quilt Bag by Nicole Melby and AJ Sass. And this says, 12-year-old Abigail, she, her, hers, is so excited to spend her summer at Camp Quilt Bag, an inclusive retreat for queer and trans kids. She can't wait to find a community where she can be herself, and she hopes admit her crush on that one hot older actress to kids who will understand. 13-year-old Kai, E.M. Ear, is not as excited. Kai just wants to hang out with Ear best friend and Ear parkour team. And E definitely does not want to think about the incident that left Ear arm in a sling. The incident that also made Kai's parents determined to send M somewhere E can feel like M-self. After a bit of a rocky start at camp, Abigail and Kai make a pact. If Kai helps Abigail make new friends, Abigail will help Kai's cabin with the all-camp competition. But as they navigate a summer full of crushes, queer identity, exploration, and more, they learn the joy that comes from being and loving yourself. So I have read several books by AJ Sass, and I think one by Nicole Melby, and was really excited when I realized that they had a new book coming out, and I'm very, very excited to have a LGBTQ plus book for my shelves, a contemporary, a middle grade. Very, very much looking forward to diving into this, and I hope I said Kai's pronouns right. I've seen them. I don't know that I've ever heard them spoken out loud, so hopefully I didn't butcher them too bad, but I also like that Kai's pronouns are not the typical she, he, they, because I think seeing representation of that is very, very important and kind of, you know, again, exposes people, whether they be kids or adults like me, to things that they maybe haven't encountered before. So very excited to get to this one. Then I got Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Rayburn. And Deanna Rayburn wrote the Veronica Speedwell mystery series, which I absolutely love. And this is, I think, a standalone. But it involves 4 older women who used to be assassins, and now they're being, I believe, stalked and marked for death, and they kind of have to avoid dying and figuring out who's behind it. It gives me, the description anyways, makes me think of the Thursday Murder Club with the kind of older generation and being far more capable than you would think at first glance. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out, and since I liked her writing style, I figured I'd give it a chance. Then I got some more Erin Hunter. I got Toklo's Story and Calyx Adventures, which are mangas in the Seekers series, which are the only ones I haven't read. I don't know if Lusa has one, if it ever came out, but I believe those are the only books I have left to read, would be these 2, and then Lusa if she's got a manga as well. I got Dead of Night and A Hidden Enemy, which are books 2 and 2 in the... So this is book 2 in the first arc of 6, and this is book 2 in the second arc of 6 of the Survivor series. These follow wild dogs after like a big growl, aka an earthquake, kind of messes up their lands, and we see dogs of all different kinds. Like I said, wild dogs. We see loners, which are wild dogs that kind of lived alone and not in a pack. We see leashed dogs, which used to have humans, and them kind of navigating the world after this giant earthquake. I really enjoyed both series and have been slowly collecting them. And then I got Bamboo Kingdom, River of Secrets, which is book 2 in the Bamboo Kingdom series. And this is the one that follows pandas who I believe were kind of separated at birth, because I think there were 3 of them that were related, and there was a great flood that separated them, if memory serves. It's been a while since I've read the first one. But like I said, slowly collecting all of the Erin Hunter books, so this was one of the few I don't own, so I snagged it. Then I think this is the only book I pulled out of a little free library in the past 3 months, but it's Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, and it's set in the early 1900s, and we're following teenaged Sunja, the adored daughter of a crippled fisherman, and she falls for a wealthy stranger at the seashore near her home in Korea. He promises her the world, but when she discovers she is pregnant and that her lover is married, she refuses to be bought. Instead, she accepts an offer of marriage from a gentle, sickly minister passing through on his way to Japan. But her decision to abandon her home and to reject her son's powerful father sets off a dramatic saga that will echo down through the generations. So It sounds like it's going to be a very interesting historical fiction that maybe follows a giant timeline as opposed to just like a couple of years. Because I wonder how far into her son's future, or maybe grandkids' future, we get to see. I've read some books like that, so it looked interesting, and I snagged it. Then I grabbed Wayward by Amelia Hart, and this is a Book of the Month book, and it says, I am wayward and wild inside. 2019. Under cover of darkness, Kate flees London for ramshackle Wayward Cottage, inherited from a great-aunt she barely remembers. With its tumbling ivy and overgrown garden, the cottage is worlds away from the abusive partner who tormented Kate. But she soon suspects that her great-aunt had a secret, one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. 1619. Altha is awaiting trial for the murder of a local farmer who was stamped to death by his herd. When Altha was a girl, her mother taught her their magic, a kind not rooted in spellcasting, but in a deep knowledge of the natural world. But unusual women have always been deemed dangerous, and as the evidence of witchcraft is laid out against Altha, she knows it will take all of her powers to maintain freedom. 1942. As World War II rages, Violet is trapped in her family's grand crumbling estate. Straitjacketed by societal convention, she longs for the robust education her brother receives, and for her mother, long deceased, who was rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only traces Violet has of her are a locket bearing the initial W and the word wayward scratched into the baseboard of her bedroom. Weaving together the stories of three extraordinary women across 5 centuries, Wayward is an astonishing debut in an enthralling novel of female resistance. So again, family vibes, history, sounds quite interesting, and I'm hoping that I have better luck with this than other Book of the Month books I've grabbed. Then I got The Adventures of Amina al-Sarfir by Shannon Chakraborty, which is S.A. Chakraborty, for those of you who don't know, and it is a new trilogy of magic and mayhem on the high seas in this tale of pirates and sorcerers, forbidden artifacts, and ancient mysteries, and one woman's determined quest to seize a final chance at glory and write her own legend. So I really enjoyed The City of Brass. I'm currently doing a read of that trilogy, and then I will hop on to this one because I think I saw something about it being set in the same world. So on the off chance there's any kind of spoilers or any kind of connection whatsoever, I figured it would just be safer to read them in publication order, but I'm very much looking forward to checking this one out. It sounded very, very interesting, and I'm hoping that it has the same kind of feel as The City of Brass, even though it's a completely different series, like a different setting. Then my last book of the month is Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne. And this says, longtime personal assistant Georgie has made a career out of putting others before herself. When an unexpected upheaval sends her away from her hectic job in LA and back to her hometown, Georgie must confront an uncomfortable truth. Her own wants and needs have always been a disconcertingly blank page. But then Georgie comes across a forgotten artifact, a friend-fic diary she wrote as a teenager filled with possibilities she once imagined. To an overwhelmed Georgie, the diary's simple, small-scale ideas are a lifeline, a guidebook for getting started on a new path. Georgie's plans hit a snag when she comes face-to-face with an unexpected roommate. Levi Fanning, one-time town troublemaker and current town hermit. But this quiet, grouchy man is more than just his reputation, and he offers to help Georgie with her quest. As the two make their way through her wish list, Georgie begins to realize that what she truly wants might not be in the pages of her diary after all, but right by her side, if only they can both find a way to let go of the past that hold them back. So this sounds like a romance that is going to also have some self-discovery in it, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it, but with romances, you never know. It sounded interesting, so I grabbed it. Then I got The Treehouse Library by Anna James. This is the 5th, I believe, book. Yeah, 5th? Yeah. In the Pages & Co. series, and in this series, we follow people who have the ability to book wander, and they can travel into books and bring characters out of books. I've really, really enjoyed the first 4 books, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in book 5 and where we go from here. And I believe there's one more book that is coming out later this year, and that kind of wraps up the series. So I'm very, very excited to kind of see how this series, wraps up and what happens in the penultimate book. Then I got Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. And this says, can 3 witchlings do the impossible? Every year in the magical town of Ravenskill, young witchlings participate in the Black Moon ceremony, are placed into covens, and come into their powers as full-fledged witches. 7 Salazar can't wait to be placed in House Hyacinth. She's worked so hard to get the best possible placement, and to avoid being a spare, a leftover witch with lesser powers looked down upon by everyone. But on the night of the ceremony, 7 isn't placed into House Hyacinth or in one of the 5 covens at all. She's a spare. Even worse, when Seven and the other two spares perform the magic circle to steal their coven, it doesn't work. They're stuck as witchlings and will lose their magical abilities for good. Seven invokes her only option, the impossible task. The three spares must defeat the dreaded Night Beast. If they work together and succeed, they'll gain their full powers. If they fail, well, the last coven to make the attempt ended up being turned into toads. Forever. So this sounds like it's going to have a magic school with three very different girls who are going to have to find a way to work together and do the impossible. Very, very curious about this. I've read, I think it was Ghost Squad by Claribel Ortega, and really liked it. So I'm hoping I enjoy this one as well. We're almost done. We're getting there. I think I have 6 books left, so very close. Next is The Land of Roar by Jenny McLaughlin, and this is the first book in the Roar series, and we're following Arthur and Rose, who had this imaginary land when they were young, and they end up finding out when they're 11 that it is not as make-believe as they thought when the villain of that land steals their grandfather and they have to go rescue him. I've really, really loved this series. I played make-believe a lot when I was young, so the idea that something I created in my mind might actually be real seems really cool. This was such an amazing read. It is definitely one that I can see myself rereading, so I needed a copy for my shelves. Then I got Starfell, Willowmoss, and the Forgotten Tale, and this follows Willowmoss, who has a power that she doesn't think is very important compared to other powers that she sees, and in the first book ends up being the only person who can kind of save things. This is the second book. I've really enjoyed this one as well, so I wanted a copy for my shelves. Then I got Crossing the Black Ice Bridge by Alex Bell. This is the third book in the Polar Bear Explorers Club, and it follows Stella, and in the first book wants to join the Polar Bear Explorers Club just like her dad, but they don't want to let girls in. But her and her dad managed to convince them to give her a shot, so she goes on an expedition as a junior explorer, and the junior explorers get separated from the main crew and have to kind of work their way back to the adults. I absolutely adore this series. I've given all of the books 5 stars. I'm really, really upset that I can't keep going with the series because I have no way to get the new books. But I finally managed to get book 3, so I now at least can do a reread of the first 3 books, which I would like to do at some point. Just absolutely adore this series. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to continue on. Then I got The Monsters of Rookhaven by Padraig Kenny, and I read this for the Fox and Wood fall readathon back in, it would have been like October, and this follows like monsters, and the main one is Mirabelle, and she's basically part of this very unusual family because she has like an uncle that turns into a grizzly bear, and her aunt is somebody whose body is entirely spiders, and she's a little different too, and there's like a magical barrier that keeps them safe, but eventually 2 orphan siblings, Jem and Tom, stumble upon a tear and come across them, and they kind of have to deal with the fallout from that. I really, really enjoyed book 1. I think there is going to be a sequel, which I'm very, very excited about, and I definitely could see myself doing a reread of book 1 and then reading book 2 whenever I get my hands on it. So makes sense to grab a copy for my shelf. It was just such an interesting book, and I really, really enjoyed my read of it. Then the second to last book is The School for Whatnots by Margaret Peterson Haddix. I've heard a lot about this author. I don't know that I've read anything from her, but this one says, "No matter what anyone tells you, I'm real." That's what the note says that Max finds under his keyboard. He knows that his best friend Josie wrote it. He'd know her handwriting anywhere, but why she wrote it and what it means remains a mystery. Ever since they met in kindergarten, Max and Josie have been inseparable, until the summer after 5th grade when Josie disappears, leaving only a note and whispering something about whatnot rules. And why would Max ever think that Josie wasn't real? And what are whatnots? As Max sets out to uncover what happened to Josie and what she is or isn't, little does he know that she's fighting to find him again, too. But there are forces trying to keep Max and Josie from ever seeing each other again, because Josie wasn't supposed to be real. Master of suspense and middle-grade thrillers, Margaret Peterson Haddix delivers another page-turning standalone adventure that delves into the power of privilege, the question of humanity, and the importance of friendship. So yeah, sounds like it's going to be a quite interesting read. Thief by A.F. Stedman, and it has bright orange sprayed edges. This follows Skander, who has always wanted to be a unicorn, knowing that the island where the unicorns are housed is in danger. And he basically meets friends. We get to see him interact with unicorns, which are not at all what you would expect them to be. I really, really enjoyed it, or have an audiobook, and I believe I read that one just on ebook. So definitely want to reread this one because the second book is out this year, and I would like to you know, maybe read them back to back. If memory serves, this gave me lots of the series which shall not be named vibes, but like in a good way. Like all of the stuff that was charming about that series without all of the baggage and garbage that comes along with that series these days. So very excited to have this copy. Love that it's got sprayed edges, and looking forward to diving back into this series at some point. So that's it. That's all the books. I'm now surrounded by books everywhere. Really hoping that my next haul won't be quite as big. I think I say that every single time, that I'm hoping next time I don't go as crazy and then I proceed to go just as crazy as the last time. But yeah, those are all the books I've hauled. A lot of them tend to be books that I either wanted a copy for my shelves or were parts of series or were written by authors that I already knew I enjoyed, because I'm trying to at least make an effort to, if I'm going to add books to my shelves, have it be something that I am much more likely to enjoy based on author or series or something like that. But yeah, that's all for this book haul. Please, please let me know of the books that I haven't read. If there's ones you think I should prioritize, it definitely would help to inform my reading going forward. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you made it this far in the video, leave me book emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!